Hi, if you're a new buyer to the market, then hopefully you are already registered with us and already have a good understanding as to how to find some settings, go and view them, make offers, and maybe even proceed to having an offer accepted. But if you've not been through the process itself, the actual sale process can be quite overwhelming. And the thing is, there are things you can do to make sure that it moves a little bit faster, but there are some things that are out of your control. And it's just having a basic understanding of the process will help you understand where your sale is and how it's progressing. So for you, there are things you can do before you actually buy a nursery that you can help speed up further down the line. Things like your finance. A bank isn't going to agree to deal without a target setting, but actually what you can do is get to a certain point where you're confident that the lend would be approved as long as you've got a certain contribution and it's meeting a certain level of EBITDA. So you can get things like that sorted beforehand. You might be able to find yourself a solicitor beforehand. Again, you don't have to instruct them, but find someone you know is confident working within nursery settings and they can jump straight to it as soon as you find one. Once the process actually moves through, there's several different stages of it, some of which you'll be very involved in and some of them you won't. A key one for you will be the bank. Your bank's going to want a lot of information, both about you and the setting, and work with your broker to make sure that they're getting everything they need. They'll also want to do a bank valuation. This is something where they instruct an outside valuer to come in and just make sure that actually all of our numbers add up and you are getting a good deal. This is something that will cost you extra. So when you're looking at finances, you need to make sure that you've probably got another £2,000 sitting around ready for that cost when the time comes, because the bank are going to want to move and make sure that they can get the valuation they need. Regarding things like Ofsted, it will depend on the type of setting you're buying and the type of structure within the business as to how that will proceed. In some cases, actually nothing needs to be done about Ofsted actually until very close to completion. But in some cases, if it's an asset sale and you're having to re-register in your own name, this is something you might start right at the beginning of the process. So again, work with your broker to make sure you understand how that's going to work and what you need to be doing at what time, so you don't kind of miss a deadline on anything there. The legal part is unfortunately quite a lot of waiting around for you. And if you're expecting to suddenly have a sudden influx of information right at the beginning, that's not going to be the case. One of the first things your solicitor is going to do for you is ask your seller for lots and lots and lots of information. And it's going to take a little while to gather that. So don't panic, actually, if you don't really see a lot moving in the first 3 to 4 weeks of a transaction, because in reality, your seller is very, very busy behind the scenes, making sure they've got all the answers you need in order to proceed as easily as possible. Actual timescales wise, sales do vary. On paper, a limited company sale of a nursery could be done in 2.5 months, but that's on paper. And to be honest, is never the case. There are always going to be external factors which we can't speed up. There are things you can help with, things like your bank, things like Ofsted, things like working with your solicitor to make sure you're going back and asking questions and making the right inquiries. But if there's a third-party landlord, it may be that actually we have to wait for them to come back to us. They're not going to move any faster than they want to. The key thing is about understanding the transaction and what you can do to speed it up. Engagement between you and your solicitor and you and your seller are key. Make sure everyone is communicating with each other. And in reality, as long as buyer, seller and their 2 solicitors are all on board with getting the deal done, it will happen. I do hope you found that useful. If you have any questions, please drop them below and I'll speak to you again soon.